Hi, I'm Rachel White with the Horizon League here with Jenna Tracy, a Northern Kentucky track and field student athlete. She's also a member of our SAC and a member of our new 1HL working group, which is a group that is seeking to bring about change in social areas throughout the league. So, first question for you, Jenna. Why did you want to be involved in this new 1HL group?
I think that for me, being a part of this group is incredibly important because it gives me an opportunity to use like my platform as a student athlete. And I feel like we always hear that, like, oh, we have a voice, we have a platform, but it's true. The track and field team is the most racially diverse team on my campus, and I think like, hearing their stories and how this impacts them, it's like, how could you not want to be involved? And I think that using my platform as a student athlete is the best opportunity to do so, because sports at the end of the day is what unifies you know people, whether it doesn't matter your ethnic background, your racial background, like your socioeconomic background, it doesn't matter. I think sports at the end of the day is, what brings people together. So who better than to, listen to and talk to about some of these issues than athletes.
For sure. And I know you guys have had a couple of calls so far. So, what has really stood out to you sort of about those initial conversations?
I think one of the things that has stood out to me has been the lack of knowledge on like voting. I think that when like as a group, that's like one of the main things that we've discussed is like how little people know about voting, and how like this upcoming election, it's more than just voting for your president, it's voting, for people who are going to be a part of your Senate and Congress and like local government. Like, it's all important because it all affects you at the end of the day. I always talk to people about how when I was younger, like I got like our school levy didn't pass one year or something, and I had to walk like 2 miles to get to school. And although it's like something like so simple, it's like a vote could have changed that outcome, for me and all the other kids that like lived in my neighborhood. So it isn't just the president. Like, at the end of the day, I feel like people think that that's like the end all be all to this election, and it's not. And I think that knowledge about, your local candidates and, like I said, Senate, Congress candidates, it's really important, to know about them as well. Know how to learn what their platforms are, how to learn maybe where you stand on the scale. Are you a little more far right, far left, whatever? I think information like that needs to be more accessible, more commonly known and stuff like that as well.
Absolutely. You see it a lot where it's sort of like there's a increased attention on the election every 4 years, but there are elections
Yeah.
even more frequently than that have a direct
Yeah.
impact on people. So obviously you hit
Mhm.
on it. You guys have talked about voting a lot. You actually made your first goal as a group to be to have 100% of eligible student athletes in the Horizon League registered to vote. So talk a little bit about that, why you guys came up with that as your first goal.
Well, I think that was like how we found that was like the easiest way to kind of like start this initiative, because that's, an event that was coming up, and like voter registration deadlines were coming up as well. So I think for us it was just like that's the easiest and quickest way to get people to do it. I know the Northern Kentucky SAC, we heard from like had somebody speak to us about like how to figure out if you're registered to vote, and if you're not, how to do it, and how easy it is and stuff like that. And I think voting is like a right that we actually like take for granted often, and it's something that like we need to continue to exercise. I think sometimes there's such like a negative like a I guess like a negative predisposition about voting, and like why does like one vote matter? Okay, well, your vote could, influence somebody else to vote. So if it's like if the seniors on the track team are going to encourage the freshmen on the track team to vote, like, I just feel like it's a domino effect and people don't realize that. So instead of thinking like very like self-centered, like my one vote can't change anything, maybe not, but maybe your one vote could inspire other people's to vote, or inspire other people to like get out there and learn more information. So it's more than just like your vote, it's talking about it. So it's like getting the conversation started as well, which I think is extremely important.
Yeah, it makes so much sense just to change the mindset from are you voting or not to like we're all voting, so let's just figure out how we're going to do it. So that makes so
Hmm.
much sense. And Why do you personally feel it's so important for student athletes and people in your position to make sure they're exercising that right to vote?
Well, as I said earlier, I just think that athletics, like traditionally, has been such a unifying force, for people. Like, it doesn't matter where you come from, people are going to be watching, the Super Bowl, and people love March Madness. They're going to be watching the men's and women's like NCAA basketball tournaments. Like, it's just something that everybody can kind of get behind and find, common ground in. So I feel like using those athletes who do create that common ground to discuss things that are extremely important, like I think that that's super important. I know a lot of us have talked about, different athletes or different organizations like the NBA and stuff, wearing shirts that say to vote, and different social media platforms that are even like kind of like inundating us with information and with questions like, are you registered? Do you know how to register? Do you know where your polling location is? Stuff like that. So I feel like as student athletes, since we kind of naturally become like the leaders of our campus because we're constantly wearing our gear, we're constantly representing not only our university but our league as well. I think it puts us in the perfect position to kind of, lead this initiative and, you know kind of encourage other people to get a part of it as well.
Awesome. And I know you guys started with voting, but obviously you've got other initiatives that you're going to want to work on throughout the year and different areas to tackle. So, what are maybe some other things that you guys have talked about wanting to really address this year as a group?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're kind of like working out right now is how we want to educate. So, other than voting. So, a lot of us have spoken about how it's important to understand like the root of all these issues, how people, will be like, well, I don't, it just feels like one day Black Lives Matter came out of nowhere or it popped up on my Twitter feed or something. And that's just not how it happened. So I think understanding the roots of all of these issues and how we educate, people on the roots of these issues. And it's more, I think we're also trying to address like this is also more than just the African American community that's been strongly affected as well. It's how do we help our other minority communities like the, Hispanic Latino community? How do we help the LGBTQIA plus community? Like there's so many other people that are, that are also suffering or, feeling this kind of like oppression as well. So it's like, how do we educate on how to like, support these groups or how these groups are being so affected and like, just kind of bring knowledge and light to those situations. I think what we're trying to decide is whether or not it's going to be best to do this on a university by university basis or if we lead this like as a Horizon League initiative and if we do it as a, Horizon League like educational program like, kind of like how we create and execute that. That's kind of like I think what our next steps are as well.
That's great. Well, it seems like you guys at least have a mission. You want to educate and just learn as much as you can about these issues and educate your peers. So, thank you so much, Jenna. Thank you for taking the time to do the interview and thank you for your great work on the 1HL team. We look forward to learning what you guys are working on throughout the year.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.